Jayam. Namaskaram to all viewers of JyothirMaarg. Dear viewers, in the last episode of our rendering of Mahabharata, we saw how Pandu was cursed for his wrongful killing of a Rishi and his wife. Now let's continue. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayed harihi om. The Rishi's curse was like a lightning strike on King Pandu. A Kshatriya king of the famed Kuru race, Pandu was physically very strong and powerful, and he was an expert in all areas of warfare, and matchless in the use of bow and arrows and the sword. And he had extensive rights and privileges and authority as a king. But his unmatched physical strength and all the royal powers and authority vested in him, and his name and fame as a descendant of the Kuru race were all overridden by a few words uttered by that dying Rishi. Because those words in the form of a curse had the potential to redefine the king's destiny, which will now lead to a tragic end for himself and his queen. The curse of the Rishi had sealed King Pandu's fate, and there was no escape from that. There sat that king, along with his two queens, like a man bitten by a snake, waiting for his death. Now it was only a matter of time. Pandu was now all regrets for his mistake, and started lamenting about his Ashubha karma in spite of being born to illustrious parents like Rishi Vedavyasa and the virtuous queen Ambalika. He said he will now denounce his royal life and become a sannyasi, following the path of his renowned father Rishi Vedavyasa. Listening to Pandu, Kunthi and Madri said that they will also follow him and accept the ascetic way of life and attain moksha along with him. They also said that if he is not ready to allow them to accompany him, they will end their lives then and there. They were with him when he was the king, and they will still be with him in his ascetic life also. Pandu agreed to take them, but cautioned that life is going to be very tough and difficult in contrast with the royal comforts of the palace. Then they removed all their gold and ornaments and other royal decorations and handed them over to the attendants. Pandu asked them to return to the palace and to hand over those belongings and to inform them that Pandu with his wives is retiring to the forest, accepting a life of asceticism. Listening to the words of Pandu, those attendants and soldiers wept aloud and then returned to the palace and informed Bhishma, Dhritarashtra and Vidura about Pandu's decision and about the incidents which led to this predicament. Everyone at the palace were shocked beyond limits, and a sorrowful Dhritarashtra cried in seclusion thinking about the sad plight of his brother. Meanwhile, Maharaja Pandu, along with his wives Kunthi, who was the daughter of the Yadava king Shurasena and the stepdaughter of another Yadava king Kunthi and Madri, who was the princess of the renowned kingdom of Madra, started their journey wearing barks of trees to cover their body and with no other worldly possessions or attendants to take care of their requirements. Eating fruits and roots and drinking water from the ponds and rivers and sleeping on the ground under trees or in caves, they reached the Nagashadha mountains. From there, they travelled to Chaitra Ratha and then crossing the Kalakuta in the Himalayas, finally reached the sacred Gandhamadana mountains. There, they stayed with the great Rishis and Siddhas for some time. Then they crossed the Indradyumna lake and Hamsakuta mountains and finally reached the mountain ranges with 100 peaks by name Shatha Shrunga. There they lived among great Rishis and Siddhas and Charanas, and observing severe woes and penances, Pandu became equivalent to a Brahmarshi, meaning an ascetic of a superior stature. Seeing the deep-rooted ascetic merits of Pandu, all those Rishis and Siddhas of Shatha Shrunga liked and adored him very much and guided him in his spiritual advancement. Then, on a full moon day, all those great Rishis and Siddhas assembled together and were about to travel in the northern direction when Pandu asked them where they were going. They told him that they were going to the Brahmalok to participate in a Mahayajna and to meet Brahmadeva. Pandu also wanted to go with them along with his wives, but the Rishis told him that those queens will not be able to make the trip as it required a lot of spiritual and ascetic merits. Then Pandu talked to them about something which was there in his mind for a long time. Pandu said that he has fulfilled and paid all debts except his obligations for his Pitrujan, which he will not be able to complete without having offsprings. So Pandu requested them to guide him in this matter as he was unable to beget his own children due to the curse of Rishi Kindama. Then those great rishis told him like this, O virtuous king, in our divine vision, we have seen that you will be blessed with offsprings who will be equivalent to the celestials. They will dwell this earth like Devendra. You may now think and do whatever is required to be done for that. So saying, those great rishis, Siddhas and Charanas, rose to the skies and started moving fast towards their destination. Thereafter, Pandu talked to Kunti when they were alone about the need for an offspring who will clear his debts to the Pitrujan and enable his moksha prapti. Pandu then requested Kunti to beget a son from any Dvija or Rishi or ascetic of superior merits. Thinking of doing whatever is the desire of her husband and that what is beneficial to him, Kunti told Pandu about the boon she had received from Rishi Durvasa. Listening to Kunti, Pandu was more than happy and excited beyond all limits and asked Kunti to invoke the god of justice, who is the Dharmaraja or Yama Dharma. Pandu said that a son begotten from that god will be a personification of dharma, fairness, truth and justice. Accordingly, on an auspicious day and time, Kunti prayed and offered Havis to Yama Dharma and then invoked him with the mantra received from Rishi Durvasa. Summoned by the power of the mantra, the very next moment that god of fairness and justice was there in front of her in all his celestial charm and radiance. Welcoming him, Kunti prayed to that god to bless her with a son with all his divine qualities. Like that, she begot a son from that Dharmadeva who was born on the 8th Jyeshta Nakshatra of the year in the lunar month of Kartika on Panjami Tidhi when the sun was at its peak at noon during the auspicious timing of the Abhijit Muhurta. When Kunti gave birth to this child, a loud and clear voice was heard from the skies like this. This child shall grow up to be the most virtuous and truthful among all men. This firstborn son of Pandu shall rule this earth and become famous in all three worlds. His name shall be Yudhishtira, and he shall perform the Rajasuya Yajna and become renowned as the most virtuous emperor on this earth. Incidentally, this was also the day on which Dhritarashtra's wife Gandhari at Hastinapur had completed exactly 1 year of her pregnancy. After Yudhishtira was born, one day Pandu told Kunti to beget one more son who will be the strongest among all men. He told her that for Kshatriyas, the most important attribute was physical strength. Thereupon, once again, when the day and time was auspicious and appropriate, Kunti invoked Vayu Deva. On his arrival, Kunti requested him to bless her with a son of matchless strength who will humble the pride of the mightiest among the mighty also. Thus, from Vayudeva, Kunti obtained a son. When he was born, a voice from the sky said that this child will be the most powerful man on this earth and he shall become famous as Bhima. After the birth of Bhima, there was a miracle-like incident which displayed the strength and hardness of his body. Kunti was sitting at the edge of a mountain slope overlooking the beautiful valley and the forests in front of her, and Bhima was sleeping in her lap. At that time, seeing a tiger at a close distance, Kunti tried to stand up fast. While doing so, the baby slipped from her hands and fell on the rocks below. When Kunti ran down to where Bhima had fallen, she couldn't believe her eyes. The rock on which the baby had fallen was broken into 100 pieces, and Bhima did not have even a scratch on his body. Like what Kunti had requested Vayudeva, the son born of him was the personification of physical might and strength with a body like that of Vajra. After some time, Pandu wanted to have one more son who will be the most blessed and talented one on earth with unmatched strength and energy and skills and brilliance. For that, Pandu thought of Indra, who was said to be very handsome with a magnificent physique. Indra is the chief of the Devas and the wielder of the invincible Vajra weapon. To fulfill his objective, Pandu sought the advice of the Rishis of Shatha Shrunga. After discussing among themselves, those great Rishis, Siddhas and Charanas, advised Kunti to observe an auspicious vrat for a full year. Similarly, Pandu did deep meditation standing on one leg from morning to evening along with other extreme penances. After a long time, Indra was satisfied and happy with the rigid penances of Pandu and Kunti. Then he appeared in front of Pandu and blessed him to have a son who will be the greatest among the greats in all three worlds. He will protect the cows and all men of this world, making them safe and happy. At the same time, he will be the cause of regret and sorrow for all his enemies and for those who did not tread the path of Dharma, said Indra. Thereafter, as advised by Pandu, Kunti invoked Devaraj Indra for begetting a son of their liking. And with the blessings of that Deva, Kunti gave birth to a very radiant son resembling Indra. When he was born, a very clear, deep and thundering voice was heard from the skies like this. O Kunti, this son of yours is equal to Lord Shiva in his energies, like the mighty King Kartavirya in his prowess, and invincible like Devaraj Indra. How Vishnu brought wellness and joy to Aditi, in the same manner this son of yours will bring happiness and wellness to you. He will win over the Madras, Kauravas and Somakas and powerful kingdoms like Chedi, Kashi and Karusha and establish supremacy in Aryavartam. He will satisfy Agnideva by offering the Gandhava forest with all its flora and fauna and will stay blessed by that Agnideva forever. He will engage himself in a duel with the Lord of Kailas, that Mahadeva himself, and will receive the ultimate weapon by name Pashupath from Mahadeva, as also the blessings of Mahadeva. He will defeat and vanquish all kings and monarchs of the north, south, east and west. Thereafter, this great hero, along with his brothers, will perform not just once but thrice that great and ultimate and most sacred Ashwamedha Yaga. O Kunti, your son will become invincible like Bhargavarama or Lord Vishnu himself. He will acquire all celestial weapons from the great Indra himself, and then at the command of Indra, he will do space travel to a distant planet and defeat and annihilate a very destructive race of demons called the Nivata Kavachas. O Kunti, this son of yours will remain undefeated all through his life and bring you name, fame, and fortune beyond all limits. And always he will stay blessed and guided by the Paramatma. Like this, the celestial voice was heard all through the 100 peaks of the Shatha Shrunga mountain ranges. Listening to the oracle, the Rishis and the Siddhas and Charanas living there felt blessed, and they were all very happy about the birth of that auspicious offspring of Kunti. Then there was non-stop Pushpa Vrishti or raining of colorful flowers of celestial fragrance from the skies. Indra himself, accompanied by all other Devas, Vishwadevas, Ashtavasus, Gandharvas, beautiful Apsara women, Yakshas, Kinnaras, Nagas, Dikpalas, Saptarshis and other celestials filled the skies of Shatha Shrunga. They had come to see that offspring of Kunti during that time which was most sacred and auspicious. Then the air was filled with the divine music, and the Apsara beauties like Urvashi, Menaga, Rambha, Tilotama, Adriga, Ghrudaji, Vishwaji and many others ascended to the earth and sang and danced around Kunti and her offspring. Seeing how the celestials were celebrating Arjun's birth, the Rishis of Shatha Shrunga were amazed beyond limits, and their love and affection for Pandu's sons also increased accordingly. Having obtained sons like the celestials, Pandu wished for more offsprings like that. But when he talked to Kunti about it, Kunti was not in favor of that. After the birth of Arjun, one day Madri addressed Pandu about her desire to beget children like how Kunti had obtained her sons. She requested Pandu to talk to Kunti for sharing the mantra with her. Thereupon, Pandu talked to Kunti and she agreed to do so. Then, on an auspicious day and time, Kunti told Madri to meditate on any deva or god of her choice. Accordingly, When Madri was in full contemplation, Kunti chanted the mantra for her. Madri had meditated on the Ashvini Devas, who were twins, and accordingly she also gave birth to twins, who were most handsome and radiant like the Ashvini Devas. After their birth also, an oracle was heard from the skies that in their physical beauty and energy, they will surpass even the Ashvini Devas themselves. Thereafter, at an appropriate time, the Rishis of Shatha Shrunga performed Pandu's children's first rites, including the name-giving ceremony. Accordingly, the eldest one was named Yudhishtira, second was Bhimasena, third and middle was Arjun, and the firstborn of Madri's twins was named Nakula, and the next and last was Sahadeva. Those children of Pandu made their parents as well as the Rishis and their wives of Shatha Shrunga also extremely happy and fascinated with their celestial qualities and attributes. Thereafter, once again Pandu addressed Kunti for begetting an offspring in Madri. Kunti replied that on her sharing the mantra once with Madri, she invoked the twin Ashvinis and begot 2 sons. Given one more chance, she will overtake me and my 3 sons, said Kunti. Thereafter, Pandu did not pursue this matter anymore with Kunti. Thus, Maharaja Pandu, who had retired to the forest and pursued a life of spirituality after he was cursed by Rishi Kundama, now begot 5 sons, of which 3 were in his first wife Kunti and 2 in Madri. And all 5 of them were begotten from celestials. Those children spent their childhood in those snow-capped Shatha Shrunga mountain ranges of the Himalayas, learning Vedas and Shastras from the great Rishis and Siddhas who lived there. They surprised their teachers with their sharp intellect and extraordinary physical strength and attributes. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayed. Harihi Om. Dear viewers, if you feel good about the summarized rendering of Rishi Vedavyasa's timeless epic Mahabharata, please like this video and write your comments also. And if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, please subscribe now. Thank you.